I'm a grown woman.
Says the woman with the Hello Kitty waffle iron.
While she may be the older of the Gilmore girls duo, Lorelai Gilmore feels more like her daughter's friend than her mother.
Okay, our house is burning down and you can save the cake or me. What do you choose?
Well, that's not fair. The cake doesn't have legs.
This unique relationship that defines the Amy Sherman Palladino series is partially framed as the product of the women's closeness in age.
You do not look old enough to have a daughter. No, I mean, and you do not look like a daughter.
Lorelai was just 16 when she had Rory, so she remembers vividly what it's like to be a teenager. But there's another explanation for their mental proximity. In many ways, Lorelai is still stuck in her own adolescence.
I'm hungry.
Have some more pizza.
It's cold.
Heat it up.
It's not the same.
Lorelai, go to your room.
When we meet her, Lorelai is in her early 30s, yet she hasn't reached many of the benchmarks we associate with adulthood. She's been working at the same place since she was a teen.
So, Lorelai, how are things at that charming little inn of yours?
They're still charming and little, and we're just crossing our fingers it doesn't assert itself and become rude and large.
Her parents still treat her like a teenager.
You wear that in public?
And she hasn't been able to commit to any long-term romantic relationships.
Do you think you'll be single your entire life?
It's not mature and put-together teen Rory, but Lorelai, who seems to do most of the growing up on the show.
Maybe we'll pull a Freaky Friday.
Or we can just pretend like we did and you can go around acting really immature. Oh, wait.
Back in 2000, when Gilmore Girls started airing, Lorelai's adult coming-of-age story was a departure from decades of settled, all-knowing TV moms.
If you know what you did wrong, I mean, that's more important than any punishment we could think of.
And it gave us a warm, enviable spin on the traditional mother-daughter relationship.
Thank you, Mom. You're my guidepost for everything.
Today, it's a portrait of delayed adulthood that's only become more relatable to younger audiences. Here's our take on how Lorelai Gilmore shows us that you're never too old to grow up.
You know what's really great about being a grown-up? This.
You're watching The Take. Thanks for watching and be sure to share and subscribe.
This video is brought to you by Sundance Now, a streaming service featuring prestige drama, intoxicating romances, international thrillers, bone-chilling true crime, and so much more. Right now, Sundance Now is offering a free 30-day trial to our viewers. Just click the link in our description below, sundancenow.com, and use the promo code THETAKE at checkout. Start watching something new today.
Someone willing to throw important life experiences out the window to be with a guy? It sounds like me to me.
The Lorelai we first meet essentially stopped developing at 16. After she got pregnant, Lorelai dropped out of high school to run away with her infant daughter to Stars Hollow, where she's remained ever since. Her career has remained largely stagnant as she's still at the Independence Inn. And although she's worked her way up from maid to manager.
And how are things at the motel?
The inn? They're great.
Lorelai's the executive manager now. Isn't that wonderful?
Her desire to strike out on her own and build something new with her friend Suki remains a pipe dream.
Someday, when we open our own inn, diabetics will line up to eat this sauce.
Lorelai's whole personality feels juvenile, from her manners
She has this off-putting sense of humor, Mikhail. You'd know that if you spent time with her.
to her eating habits.
Do we want marshmallows?
And jelly beans, and chocolate kisses, cookie dough we have at home, peanut butter.
Her relationship with Rory is more like that of two sisters.
I have your CD.
Steve?
Lorelai mocks Rory for being too uptight,
My sense of adventure did not translate to my offspring.
while Rory kids her mother for behaving like a child.
I have vanilla chocolate strawberry and toasted marshmallow.
Anything in there not resembling a breakfast cereal?
And it's often Rory who's the more responsible one.
I can't be late on my first day of school.
Lorelai's relationship with her own parents similarly hasn't progressed past adolescence.
Is that a collector's cup or can I throw it away for you?
Emily and Richard Gilmore still see their daughter as a reckless girl who can't be trusted to make her own decisions.
I only want the best for her, and since she is incapable of judging what is right and what is wrong, I had to step in. I had to act.
And Lorelai is so desperate to be free of her parents' control that she often behaves like that petulant teen, obsessed with upsetting them.
It's almost like the absence of their reaction was worse than any freak out they could have had.
Lorelai acts like a reckless teen in her romantic life, too.
This is weird.
She constantly second-guesses her feelings and behaves impulsively, rekindling an affair with Rory's father, dating one of Rory's teachers, and eventually rejecting marriage proposals from both of them.
For the entire week before my wedding, I'd wait till my mother went to sleep, and I'd sneak out of bed, and I'd put on my wedding dress.
Because I didn't want to try on my wedding dress every night.
Lorelai's state of arrested development is one we've seen time and time again in pop culture, but mostly in male characters, from the proud man-child
Chlorophyll? More like borophyll.
to the confirmed bachelor. We've become inured to boyish men who spurn marriage, children, and meaningful careers.
It's gonna take a stick of dynamite to get me out of my parents' house.
And while most of those stories involve these man boys eventually growing up, we're also meant to find their immaturity amusing, even liberating.
You'll give us so much extra space in our room to do activities.
But until recently, the failed grown-up wasn't usually a woman, and she certainly wasn't a mom. Before Gilmore Girls, most TV moms were caretakers and homemakers, wells of wisdom and sensible advice.
Well, Beaver, today girls can be doctors and lawyers, too, you know. They're just as ambitious as boys are.
Lorelai Gilmore broke with this tradition by being messy and irresponsible.
We're gonna get in trouble.
You're such a worrywart.
As well as unapologetic about her imperfections. Her rejection of the expectations society places on women, and mothers especially, has since manifested in other popular woman-child characters who don't have their lives all figured out.
Why ain't you married?
I'm just not. Right now.
Recently, we're seeing a growing number of pop culture moms finally following in Lorelai's footsteps by not conforming to the pressure to be perfect and conventionally adult.
I can't tell you not to drink and smoke pot because my senior yearbook quote was, "Let's drink and smoke pot."
On Gilmore Girls, Lorelai's immaturity allows her to relate to her daughter like a best friend, an unconventional spin that's central to the show's appeal.
You're drawing me into your drunken world.
It's not a bad place to be, my friend.
And while it's Rory who's technically coming of age, in many ways it's Lorelai's story of growing up that delivers the deepest satisfaction.
It feels right. Yeah. Such a long time getting here. Sometimes it's just a journey, you know?
Traditional coming-of-age stories typically rely on the idea that people grow up fast, that often all it takes is one transformative experience, or even one crazy night.
You just can't stay 17 forever.
These stories all take for granted that everything will just settle down once you're an adult.
None of this will matter when I'm 38.
But Gilmore Girls challenges this narrative. For both Rory and for Lorelai, growing up is a slow process of trial and error, figuring out who you are and what you value, and it's never really finished. One of the main ways we see Lorelai mature is in her relationship with her parents.
I'm just unbelievably touched and grateful for what you said to him, for defending me like that.
Over the course of the series, Lorelai realizes that her determination to live the opposite of the life her parents want for her is a self-negating attitude, one that actually hinders her ability to make her own choices and define herself.
What if I don't want to do what I want to do because I want to do it, but because they don't want me to?
We recognize that she's truly growing up when she stops seeking not just her parents' approval, but also their rejection. As a result, Emily and Richard at last begin to see Lorelai as an adult and stop trying to micromanage her life.
I've moved on. Richard, anything you'd like to add?
I can't think of a thing.
Lorelai's self-actualization also manifests itself in her career.
I'm diving in. Suki and I are finally going to open that inn.
When she first discovers the Dragonfly Inn, it's in disrepair, not unlike Lorelai herself.
Little paint, some pretty curtains, $150,000 of construction, we're open for business.
But in a testament to Lorelai's growing maturity, she commits to putting in the hard work to make her dream a reality. Lorelai's coming of age is perhaps most evident, though, in her relationship with Luke.
You two are perfect for each other. I have always thought that someday if you just sort of turned around and opened your eyes that you'd see it.
At the beginning of the series, neither Lorelai nor Luke are ready for anything serious.
I mean, people grow and evolve their whole lives. The chances that you're going to grow and evolve at the same rate as someone else is too slim to take.
Unlike the working-class Luke, Lorelai dates the kind of men her parents might have chosen for her.
You have good breeding.
But even when Lorelai doesn't seem to know who she is, Luke remains a loyal friend.
Think I can hack being a business owner?
I think you can hack anything.
As well as a surrogate father to Rory.
Luke and I have had our ups and downs over the years, but through it all, his relationship with my daughter Rory has never changed.
Luke's and Lorelai's is the sort of bond that can only develop out of years of patient growth.
I just want you to know I'm in. I am all in.
In Luke, Lorelai recognizes fully who she is, and in choosing him, she's committing not only to him, but to herself.
Luke, will you marry me?
After a lifetime of hasty decisions, both finally realize the importance of taking the time to figure out what you really want.
Take all the time you need.
Lorelai's coming of age is contrasted with Rory's own, and from the beginning, it's Lorelai's fear that Rory will repeat her own mistakes that creates most of the conflict.
She was supposed to have more than me. She was supposed to have everything.
In Arrested Development stories, a character has often failed to progress beyond a certain stage because of a critical event or period of trauma, or because they're hung up on a particular era of their past.
You can come to the city with me like we always planned.
Mavis, I'm a married man.
We can beat this thing together.
It's no coincidence that Lorelai stopped growing at precisely the age when she got pregnant with Rory. Lorelai feels that becoming a teen mother required her to sacrifice the personal growth and development that non-parents get to continue on with. And when it comes to Rory's future, it's clear that Lorelai's own lost youth and all those missed opportunities continue to weigh heavily on her mind.
She can finally go to Harvard like she's always wanted and get the education that I never got and get to do all the things that I never got to do, and then I can resent her for it and we can finally have a normal mother-daughter relationship.
At first, to Lorelai's relief, Rory appears to be on a polar opposite path from the one her mother took. Yet over time, we see that Lorelai's example has affected her daughter in more complicated ways. After being laser-focused in high school on her goal to become a high-achieving academic superstar, Rory hits more speed bumps in college and beyond that cause her to question her assumptions about adulthood and recalibrate her plans.
I don't want to wander around a school where everyone else is focused and working towards something and I'm just floating.
Ironically, the 2016 revival, Gilmore Girls: A Year in the Life, shows Rory subtly falling into very similar patterns as her mother once did. At 32, around the same age as Lorelai was when the show began, Rory is stagnating in her career and making immature choices.
Sorry, I just didn't have a pitch prepared.
That's a little weird. Thought you'd bring some ideas.
And in the last moments of the final episode, history repeats when Rory reveals that she's about to become a single mom.
I'm pregnant.
We can infer that the father is, like her own, a rich guy with a controlling family, while Rory, like her mom, is planting the slow-growing seeds of a deeper bond with a gruff yet thoughtful man who's not just reminiscent of Luke, but even related to him.
Whatever you say, Uncle Luke.
It's Luke. Just Luke.
While Lorelai's in-depth reaction to Rory's news is yet to be explored in a potential continuation of the revival, this announcement is in many ways exactly the moment she's long feared for the daughter she was determined must not end up like her.
You are going on the pill.
What?
You're not getting pregnant!
Yet, from what we've seen unfold for her mother, we can gather that Rory, who's also double the age Lorelai was when she got pregnant, and on her way to publishing a book, will be just fine doing things her own way in her own time. Gilmore Girls underlines that messiness and imperfection are important parts of achieving true maturity, and the straight and narrow fast-track path isn't necessarily the right one. After spending all those years watching her mother grow up as an adult, Rory is ultimately empowered to make mistakes, go her own way, and not make big life decisions before she is ready.
I kind of like the idea that it's just all kind of wide open. And if I married you, it just wouldn't be.
It's the first time in my life I've gotten to feel like a single grown-up woman.
Ultimately for Lorelai, waiting to grow up until she's an adult turns out to be a good thing. The slower timeline gives her the space to formulate a clear idea of who she is and what she really wants. Both her career,
We are such great businesswomen!
and her relationship with Luke are strengthened by her allowing them to evolve over time,
This has been a really great first date.
It only took us 8 years to get here.
Being a late bloomer actually allows her to be a more engaged, open mother to Rory, and it eventually even enables Lorelai to become closer to her own parents as they all but start over as friends.
Why don't we just talk about it Friday night at dinner?
Looking back now, Lorelai's is a story that proves reassuring to modern younger generations who've recently found themselves struggling with their own late-onset adulthood.
I thought you were up. It's 7:10.
It's 5:45.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. I set the clock for 5:45, so it's 7:10.
When Gilmore Girls premiered in 2000, Lorelai was 32, which makes her a member of Generation X. Yet her struggle resembles those that have become increasingly common to millennials, many of whom have found achieving the milestones set by their parents to be difficult, even unrealistic.
I was supposed to graduate from high school, go to Vassar, marry a Yale man, and get myself a proper nickname like Babe or Bunny or Shih Tzu.
Young people are less likely to be able to afford a home. They're getting married later, if at all. And both millennials and now older members of Gen Z are faced with a job market that's still crowded with boomers and members of Lorelai's generation, making it difficult to find work, let alone a satisfying career. For many in this environment, the traditional coming-of-age narrative in which your most formative experiences happen in your teens and 20s and then your life is set in stone rings false. Lorelai's trajectory is far closer to what people today are living.
I just thought I had everything under control, but I didn't, and the inn is just falling apart.
So young viewers discovering Gilmore Girls for the first time now may relate more immediately to the so-called grown-up than to the perfectionist youth who appears to have it all mapped out.
You have so many years of screw-ups ahead of you.
Lorelai reassures us that it's okay to still be figuring out who you are well into your 30s and beyond, and that the usual benchmarks of success, a career, a committed relationship, knowing exactly what you want, are not only still achievable later on, they may even be better for the wait.
It's really hard to get married. Believe me, I should know.
The character also gives us a vibrant, energized portrait of adulthood that doesn't equate growing up with giving up. However much she changes, Lorelai never loses her youthful spirit.
Oi, with the poodles already.
Decades later, she remains a sympathetic, inspirational character to mothers and daughters alike, and an illustration that when it comes to deciphering what to do with your life, we're all making it up as we go along.
But I'm here now, and hey, I'm like cheese.
What?
She gets better with time.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get notified about all our new videos. This video is brought to you by Sundance Now. Whether you're looking for true crime, period pieces, or binge-worthy romances, Sundance Now has it all. One show you can check out on Sundance Now is the thrilling crime drama Riviera. The series follows an art curator whose life is turned upside down after the mysterious death of her wealthy husband. Set against the backdrop of the French Riviera, the star-studded cast includes Julia Stiles, Will Arnett, and Poppy Delevingne. Right now, Sundance Now is offering a free 30-day trial to our viewers. Just click the link in our description below, sundancenow.com, and use the promo code THETAKE at checkout.